Talkin fight fans? Thanks for tuning in to the special week of Knuckle Up, where we are profiling the Murderers Row, the 8 fighters from the 40s who were part of the most elite club to ever grace the boxing ring, the most feared middleweights around the world. And yeah, we're here for part 2 today. So we're going to get right into it. Cedric, take us away.
All right. So we are gonna start off with Aaron Little Tiger Wade, who was born March 17th, 1916. So that is crazy in itself. An African American born Golden Gloves champion. It says he's from Tennessee, but he had most of his fights out of Chicago, Peoria, Illinois. He turned professional in 1935 at the age of 19. This is one of the most interesting facts that I read about Mr. Wade. They said he was vertically challenged, measuring up to 5'5".
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, it's 5'5" is small just to begin with, but he is small for a welterweight. He fought at middleweight and light heavyweight. Like he must have been a little tank. Can you imagine? 5'5" at light heavyweight, welterweight, and like I said, even just middleweight 5'5". I mean, just that welterweight 5'5" would be short. So I could imagine what type of like build he had, little tank back then.
Yeah.
So he definitely had. I mean, he got used to it because he turned it into his advantage with all his wins, and you're going to talk about that in a second. Yeah, he had a good career. One of his first defeats was to a Filipino great, Serafino Garcia, but he was undeterred. He got back to his winning ways, and had a very good winning streak. Towards the end of his career, just like a lot of the good fighters, that were controlled by the mob, had to take a few dives. That's why you see a lot of extra losses on their end of their careers because back then they had to take it for the money, so they had no other options. But what he's also famous for in 1948, during the end of his career, but kind of the beginning of Sugar Ray Robinson's career, Wade was one of Sugar Ray Robinson's sparring partners. They had a little bit of a dispute over a sparring fee, and the story is Wade beat the crap out of Sugar Ray Robinson and left him with some injured ribs and had to actually postpone his fight because his ribs were injured from that. So there you go, Aaron Little Tiger Wade, one of the founding members of the Black Murderers Row, and now Mike's gonna give us his stats.
Let me tell you about this, okay? We're gonna start off by saying that this man amassed an amateur record, like of roughly around 600 fights. And I'm saying this right, guys. 600 amateur fights.
Yeah. Now just think of that. You see guys like Lomachenko has 2 gold medals. He has like 200 amateur fights. My boy Adam Trouba is 2-time Olympian. He has almost 200 amateur fights. A lot of these gold medalists have a lot of the Cubans have like 200, 300 fights. He doubled that. Doubled that. So
he destroyed that, man. 600 amateur fights. This guy was definitely no slouch getting into the ring. He turns pro and amasses an amazing record as a pro, as 64 wins, 16 losses with 6 draws, including 32 knockouts. This guy, he debuted 1935, August 15th against Murray Allen. And he took on this guy back to back, man. And when you look at this guy's record and you see the guys that this guy fought, he was a very feared boxer for sure, because once he's fought one guy, he's going to continue to fight this guy because, he keeps popping up in the names. He's fighting guys back to back all the time. He's fighting guys 3 or 4 times in a row. And when you get into the 40s here, that's when you really start to see this whole Murderers Row thing where, he's fighting the guys that are part of this group. And I mean, over and over and over again, just fighting the same guys, stacking up the wins or stacking up the losses. It's going back and forth. For example, back in, I believe it's 1941, April 25th to 1941, August 11th. He fought the same guy 3 times out of 4 fights. So you know what I mean? Like, these guys were very, very feared. You can tell that just by their stats, man. You get up into the mid 40s, and this is where all these tournaments that they talked about start to come into place. This is where you see him start to take on, the Charley Burleys, the Jack Chases, just all these guys that are in this group. You can see where they start to fight each other, and it's pretty crazy, man. That
Mhm.
that they were able to amass such huge records, but still yet never get those chances to get in the ring there and fight for an actual title.
Yep. Exactly, man. I mean, like I said, back then these guys were fighting, talking about every week, probably like twice for the week, for months at a time. So you gotta respect that. You gotta respect that. Wade ended his career helping people like the less unfortunate, try to get off the streets. He ended up being a minister and just helping people in general, and passed away in 1985. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. All right. Now moving on
Yes.
to Bert Lytell, who was also known as the Chocolate Kid,
Yeah.
another member of the Black Murderers Row. He was born January 24th, 1924, in Victoria, Texas, USA. As I said, his nickname was the Chocolate Kid. His story, how he started out, was pretty funny too. Apparently, he walked into the gym very confident. He saw two guys sparring, just started yelling out loud, "I'll beat both your asses!" And so they liked his confidence. He started his professional career not too long after that. He lost his pro debut on a point decision, but just like Mr. Wade, he got back up, trained harder, and just started killing people. Well, not literally, but even though his name he's on the murderer's row, he didn't actually kill somebody. But he did have some good matches. In 1945, he lost a close split decision to Jake LaMotta, a name that you guys might be familiar with many of the observers thinking that that the Chocolate Kid actually did enough to win. But of course, you know how the politics were back then. They tried to get a rematch with Mr. LaMotta, but he was having no parts of that.
No.
So in 1948, he got a rematch when a guy that he had a close loss with, following their hard fought match, and as a consequence, missed his opponent. Actually, never regained consciousness due to the injuries from the fight. And this actually, put a toll on the Chocolate Kid for a while, as it would for any boxer. Obviously, this is a sport where the goal is to stop your opponent, but at the same time, you're not trying to kill your opponent. Even though some fighters have said that during a press conference, but it's just the hype of the fight. When it actually does happen, that's not something that we highlight in the sport of boxing. It's a sad thing, and like I said, it did affect him. And he decided to hang up his gloves in 1951, and just got close with his family, and just became a family man after that. So yeah. Bert Lytell, the Chocolate Kid. Now, please give us his stats.
Oh, Bert Lytell. Let's talk about this kid, man. 71 wins, 23 losses, 7 draws, with 24 KOs. He's only been to sleep himself once.
Mm,
This 5'9" Southpaw was born in Victoria, Texas, moved to Oakland, California, where he resides. One of these feared middleweights. Debut was 1944. 07-17, and his career spanned into 1951. And talking about that big fight against Jackie Darthard, who died of the injury sustained in that fight. Darthard was down twice in the third round and was unable to answer the bell for the seventh round. And then you fast forward, to 1949, January 1st, against Jerome Fraser. That fight that Lytell won. Fraser was knocked out in the same ring at the same venue at the same time in the same round exactly 1 year previous to when
wow.
Jackie died. Yeah, to when Jackie died. So that kind of I think that kind of messed him up a little bit, man,
Yeah,
because
of course.
when he came out for his next fight, which was only a month later against Henry Hall, he fought that to a draw. So obviously, things were playing in his mind. It was a little rough on him, but it's crazy that the power these guys had, and the fact that man, they were seriously feared fighters, man, and they meant business, and to amass these kinds of records and still get in there every single every other week. When you look at the amount of times these guys were fighting, like I'm talking less than a month sometimes between some of these fights that these guys were getting in these rings and doing. Very, very crazy.
Yeah, man. Talk about earning your paycheck.
Yeah, for real. Talk about earning your paycheck.
I don't know if just closing it out on both guys. Aaron Wade, the little tiger. The one thing that, well, I'm gonna say I regret. There's nothing we can regret. There's nothing that we could have done about it. But I just wish there was more highlights, film on these guys just to see. Just like I said, Aaron Wade. This guy was 5'5" fighting at light heavy. I would have loved. Just trying to visualize that. I can't even. It doesn't even make sense.
That's like Muggsy Bogues playing in the NBA.
Yeah,
Spud Webb, or like Spud Webb playing in the NBA. That's
yes. That I would have loved to see just some highlights of that. And then of course with the chocolate kid, Bert Lytell, they said he was a busy, skilled southpaw with a swarmer. He was a swarmer with a great chin and solid defense. Of course, I love how much I love defense. So it would have been great to see him fight. So I don't know. I'm sure somewhere I tried to search YouTube. I'm sure somewhere around the internet somebody has some old some old footage of these guys. So hopefully it pops up.
Definitely. Well, I guess that being said, we've profiled the first two fighters on our Murderers Row Week special. I hope you guys out there in Talkin Fight Land love it. We hope that you stick around for this week's. Were they managed? They've kind of managed themselves and through their own kind of tournaments, man. That's the only way these guys would get fights. It's unfortunate thing.
And I mean, like they were managed, but it's like it's not like nowadays where the fighters can kind of say who they want to fight and when they want to fight. Back then, it was you kind of just had to take what you got, especially when this was your only way of feeding your family. And especially back then, guys were not, especially black guys, were not getting paid top dollar for these big matches. So yeah, they kind of had no choice but to take whatever was offered to them. And it's kind of messed up. Fighting guys that you would consider your friends or your brothers multiple times over and over again. So yeah, next, did people pay to see them? I'm assuming so. Obviously, ticket prices were a little bit cheaper back then. But yeah, they had to pay the fighter somehow. Like I don't think, even though times were tough back then, especially for black people, that I don't think they were just fighting for free. I'm sure they were getting paid. They probably weren't getting as paid as some of their white opponents, but I'm sure I don't think they were just fighting for free. Again, it might not have been top dollar, but it was enough to at least feed their family at the time.
Yes, definitely they've paved the way, though. I'm gonna say that, man. They've definitely paved the way.
Yeah.
Boxing fans did pay money to watch these guys. I know that for a fact. It's been there. It all depends on how much they paid. Who knows? I'm not too sure with 1940s ticket prices, but I know. But I do know that people did pay to see these guys. They were a super talented, exciting bunch of boxers that were feared by the competition due to their pizzazz, man. They had it. They had the ability to get in the ring and bash people out and do it in such a fashion. And they were. I guess society just wasn't ready to have these guys dominate and dominate the world of boxing. And this is the reason why we of boxing and these tournaments that these guys ended up fighting each other in a total number of 64 times. So you know what I mean? It's
crazy.
It's pretty crazy. But that being said, Cedric, man, take us away, buddy. Sign us off.
Yeah. Thanks again for joining us this whole week. We're going to be honoring all the members from the Black Murderers Row, a group of fighters who didn't really get their chance at the top guys at the time, but still put on great fights for people to watch. And will forever live in time as great boxers.
Definitely.
Did other boxers want to join the row? Well, that's the thing, that the name Murderers Row, it's not a name that they gave to themselves. This is a name that one of the reporters at the time gave them that name, just because he's seeing these guys fight all the time. He can obviously see how good they are, and he can see why the top guys wouldn't fight them, and so he's the one. I'll get his name for tomorrow. That'll be good trivia for tomorrow. Who's the person that named the these guys the Murderers Row? So to answer that question, yeah, I mean, in theory, you would want to be considered part of that, because those guys were considered the elite at the time. So yeah, I'm assuming there are boxers that wanted to join, that wanted to be named under the Murderers Row, right? But as again, the politics of who was writing the stories would control that. But you couldn't deny it. Again, black people back then, the early 1900s, was very tough, very tough. So in order for someone to give you praise, especially publicly, you must have been doing something spectacular, or really looking, did something to impress for your name to be praised about back then. Definitely. Right. And yeah, man, we'll see you guys tomorrow for the next installment of the Black Murderers Row.
Yes, and be on the lookout for a special guest that we will have joining us tomorrow. I'm not going to let you know who it is. You're just going to have to join us and find out.
Oh, yes. Very special guest. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow.
Who's going to be joining us for the rest of the week, hopefully. Yes, so make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Continuation of Black Murderers Row of Boxing. You know what it is, guys. It's Mike Orr at 4 on Knuckle Up with my man Cedric Benn in the den, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same channel. Continuation of this wonderful story. Man.
Quick, one more quick question from my man Dusty.
Dusty Monford. Yes.
He's asking about 50 rounds. I think back then it was unlimited. It was like they would go for hours at a time. It was really basically basically somebody quitting. Or sometimes the match would go for hours at a time, like literally hours at a time, 2-3 hours. So I'm not sure. I don't think the rounds were really introduced until actually probably around that time, probably around the 40s and 50s. But earlier, like before that, I don't know. It was just last man standing, basically.
Right.
All right.
Yes. So to all the Talkin Fight fans around the world, thanks for tuning in to this wonderful episode of Knuckle Up at 4 with Mike Orr and Cedric Benn in the den. You know what it is, man. Continuation tomorrow of the Black Murderers Row. So make sure you join us and see who our special guest will be. Until then, we'll see you.
Peace.